Hello, I'm Michelle Bailey, the Senior Program Manager at the Vermont Arts Council. Thanks for joining me for a brief orientation to the Animating Infrastructure Grant Program and an overview of the panel review process. Through the Animating Infrastructure Grant Program, we strive to support creative placemaking through public art that helps communities demonstrate the positive impact of art in meeting goals of livability, walkability, safety, economic vitality, community vibrancy, and to support the creation of unique infrastructure projects in communities where function and art are one and the same. This program is designed to foster cross-sector partnerships, social connections between communities and artists, and to enhance a sense of community pride and identity. We're looking to support a variety of project types and provide opportunities for artists to engage with community in the design and/or fabrication of permanent or temporary public art for an interior or exterior site that is accessible to the public. We define infrastructure very broadly, basically anything that serves a function in a community, like a building, a trail, roads, parks, or more. And eligible art and infrastructure projects can include freestanding art, like a sculpture in a park, or artwork applied to infrastructure, like a mural on a wall, or a project where the infrastructure itself is being created by the artist, such as an artist-fabricated bike rack or fence or benches. Some projects may be more competitive than others, depending on what the goals of the community are and how the art project is helping them to address those goals. While we're hoping to push communities to think a bit more about the opportunities for public art and to go beyond a traditional memorial in a park or a mural on a wall, there may be very compelling reasons to support these kinds of traditional public art projects. So they're definitely eligible. Many images in this presentation are from funded animating infrastructure projects. So the program offers two different funding types of grants. First of all, a $5,000 design grant, which is where the artist works with the community to develop the specific design for the art project. Applicants do not have to identify the artist for this type of project grant, as we do allow for the search process for an artist to take place during this design process. And then implementation grants of up to $15,000 for art projects that have identified artists already, and that projects that are basically ready to go to be fabricated and installed. Applicants at the project pitch phase do not have to submit a budget at this point, but they will be asked to do that in the full proposal phase if they are invited to come back. If an applicant applies for a design grant, they may come back next year and apply for the implementation grant to actually build the project that they design. It does not guarantee that they will get a grant even if they're awarded a design grant now. And some projects may be eligible once they're designed to seek funding through another program that the state offers called Better Places, which is a crowd granting program that is matched 2-to-1 by the state. Grants will not require a match, but if there are additional expenses above and beyond the grant amount, the applicant will be responsible for raising those additional funds. Note that we do require that 80% of the grant funds must be used to compensate the artist for their time doing the design work and fabrication work, or for the materials, supplies, and expenses for the creation and installation of the artwork. And then 20% may be used by the grantee to support project management, community engagement activities, and administrative costs for the project. We do not fund the purchase or lease of existing work or exhibition of artwork. Any ongoing operational expenses of the applicant organization or partners, capital improvements that are not directly related to the public artwork, the purchase of land or property, or the design of artwork that will not be publicly accessible or visible. 501c3 nonprofit organizations are eligible to apply, as well as educational institutions and municipalities, and also community groups that may not have tax-exempt status can also apply using a fiscal agent. And individual artists are not eligible to apply directly themselves, but often they are involved in these community groups. All eligible project proposals are welcome, but we're especially interested in integrated projects where the infrastructure is the art, projects that may be in their early planning phases, and projects that foster connections among people with diverse financial, educational, health, employment, or social resources, or people with diverse abilities, races, cultures, genders, or ages. The timeline, the applications were due for their project pitches on June 1st, and we're meeting obviously July 11th. And on that date, we will select the finalists to develop a full proposal, which will be due September 14th. And then we will convene again in October and then notify the applicants by October 20th as to the results of the grant and whether they've gotten an award or not. And they will have about a year to do the project between October 21st of 2023 and November 1st of 2024. Our criteria that we're looking at is that we're looking for competitive proposals that will demonstrate project potential right here. And so that potential can be demonstrated with a clearly defined place and proposed art and infrastructure project that has high community visibility. And interior locations are considered high visibility, even if they're located within a building, but it just has to be a publicly accessible space like a lobby or some other public area. And in the context of the organization or the community, a location, even if it's very rural and remote, like on a trail, those would be considered highly visible. Clearly defined vision with specific goals and outcomes, strong community leadership and cross-sector partnership opportunities. We're very interested in those cross-sector partnerships, and right now we didn't ask them to confirm those partnerships, but that would happen within the full proposal. Opportunities to celebrate and or tell a story of what is unique or special about that community place. And then, is this an appropriate and realistic scope and scale in the context of this community and this organization? We really want them to emphasize those the need for those specific goals and outcomes, that cross-sector partnership, and opportunities to tell that story and about what's unique about that community and that community connection. We also ask our applicants to provide up to 7 images or links to other media samples like videos or things that can demonstrate to you both the potential site or location for the artwork, the infrastructure project, images of the community itself, like maps or designs for the infrastructure. And then in terms of that vision for the artwork, we've asked them to demonstrate it if it's not an implementation grant. If they can demonstrate it through visuals like other samples from other communities or artwork from other artists that gets them excited. We really want to have an idea of what their vision is for that, and that can these kind of images can really help. And they're not locked into these concepts or these designs or these artists specifically. They're just there to help you get an understanding of what might be exciting them for the potential for the art and what is their vision. And then we've also given applicants an option to submit a 3-minute video recording of their project pitch. And this is optional, as we find some communities may not be feeling like they have a strong grant writing skills, but and the videos do not need to be highly polished or highly edited. It can simply be a handheld cell phone walking around the site or the location, talking to us about the project ideas and the community. And additional consideration will be given to projects that have a potential to be a model project for other communities. And that could be through because of the project location. Maybe it's a rural community or someplace that has not been funded before. The community engagement activities, it might present a unique opportunity, or it's an uncommon type of project, or the infrastructure itself is the art. Our goal is really to fund a diversity of projects from communities all across Vermont, But some communities that may have already received an animating infrastructure grant may not necessarily be as competitive from a geographic standpoint, but there may be very compelling reasons why a project may still be recommended in a community that we've already funded, particularly if it's reaching criteria for additional consideration. So just so you know that it can be funded, even if it's in the same community. We can talk about that. And maybe maybe we've already done a mural project in that community, but in the context of diverse projects, murals tend to be what we see the most common application for. But maybe that there's a mural that, because of the diversity of the community engagement activities and populations involved, it might be a great project to fund. There also may be compelling reasons why a project is particularly important to the community at this time. There's another question there that speaks about the timing of it. So for example, if a community is undergoing a downtown streetscape improvement, or there's a building that's being renovated, now it might be the time to integrate art into those projects while they're under construction. And we also do consider temporary projects. This can include ephemeral kinds of experiences as well, whether it be a short time frame or a long time frame of, a few weeks or months. Or, there's a project application in here about a mobile buses. So those could be considered as infrastructure and public art as well. We'll leave it up to you to determine how well they've made these proposal project pitches. Ultimately, while we do want to fund a variety of projects, we are still looking for funding those projects that are going to have the most potential for success. So, moving on to our 5 C's of the application review. All applications here, while you're reviewing them on your own and during the panel meeting, should stay confidential. The notes included in your online scoring and taking during the panel meeting will be summarized and shared as feedback for applicants if they request it. However, the comments are paraphrased and your names will not be attributed to any specific comments. We do eventually share who the panelists were for our projects, for our grant programs. But, Vermont's a small place. And if someone does come up to you and ask you questions about the process or their application, please don't feel you have to engage in a conversation with them. You might want to tell them that there were a lot of applications that day, or it was a long time ago, and really just send them my way. That's my job, is to take care of sharing those comments and that feedback with them, and I'm happy to do that. Secondly is conflict of interest. Simply knowing an applicant does not constitute a conflict. However, if there is a family relationship or employee or contractor relationship, or if you tend to benefit financially from this grant, then that would be a conflict. Please let me know if there is a conflict with any of these applicants, and I'll be sure to recuse you from that review. Also, if you're not sure, please let me know and I can help you decide. Sometimes just the pure perception of a conflict can be enough to have you recuse yourself because either you're not comfortable or you feel like there may be a reason why others might be uncomfortable just because of that connection. Even though you feel you may be objective, that is fine, and you can also recuse yourself from that. Context: when looking at the applications, it may be difficult to evaluate a really big established organization compared to a smaller organization or community. Rather than comparing them to each other, keep in mind, in the context of each project, in the community, in the kind of organization that it is this a good investment? Is the work reasonable and impactful? For example, a project in a library in a small rural community doesn't have to be compared directly to a downtown streetscaping project, but rather in the context of a small rural community. This project in a library, is this a quality project with potential for success that will have impact? And then consistency. We all come to the review with our own biases and experiences. Recognize that and stay consistent with yourself when evaluating the proposals. If you feel that one criteria is more important than another, make sure you're consistent in your own evaluation throughout all the applications. And then finally, criteria. I've gone over this a lot already, so I won't take a lot of time here. But there is a rubric included in your panelist guide to help you with your evaluations of the applications. And it is really important that you provide those comments and scores that indicate how the applicant addressed or didn't address the criteria or their strengths and weaknesses in the application. And this is really helpful to us as we share feedback to our applicants. So, exploring biases. In the context of the 5Cs, the Council has put together an Exploring Biases document as a self-reflection tool when thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Under each of these headings is a series of questions to ask yourself when reviewing the applications. We're committed to improving our work in this area, and this is a first step. And we do want you to score these applications against the criteria. But before you score, we ask you to reflect on those potential biases in these areas. Number one, diversity, the extent to which an organization has people from diverse backgrounds represented throughout it. It is a recognition of individual differences, and these differences can be along the dimensions of race, ethnicity, age, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, physical abilities, nationality, language, religious beliefs, socioeconomic background, among others. I'm really thinking about these questions to ask yourself, how has the lack of financial education or material resources contributed to this grant application? Am I penalizing this grant application for any of these reasons? And what structural barriers or power dynamics or other areas of privilege are at work in a way in which this application is being considered? Secondly is equity, the state, quality, or ideal of being just. Thinking about who will directly benefit from this grant proposal, considering individuals, communities, cultural groups, etc. And how is my perception of this grant proposal influenced by my pre-established norms set by a dominant culture? Are they scoring low because they don't have grant writing experience, for example? And then finally, inclusivity, the active, intentional, and ongoing engagement of the diversity of an organization, organizational culture, and production of art in order to provide equal access, well-being, and a sense of belonging for all members of the organization. Am I prioritizing the stability of the dominant culture over inclusivity? What are my priorities in regards to this grant proposal? And are assumptions being made about the grant applicant based on perceived cultural knowledge? These questions are included in your grant panel guide, so please just take a few moments to reflect on those. And then, of course, our scoring rubric. I mentioned this before. It's there to aid you in the scoring. There's a total possible points of 18, and most criteria being scored are on a scale of 1 to 3 in the areas of it, and then the areas of additional consideration are given an extra 1 point. Our goal for this first round is really to narrow applicants down to a final list of 8, maybe 10 applications. And then keep in mind that even if the main criteria is not strong, they may get an extra point or two because of those extra points, but they still may not rise enough to the top of the list for consideration for a full proposal. We'll let you use your discretion here. And you should use the information that you have in the proposal to make the initial scores. But know that if there's a project that has high potential and you want to invite it to expand and do a full proposal, we can provide guidance to the finalists and give them specific things that you'd like them to address in that full proposal. And in that full proposal, we will ask more information about the budget, the questions of the leadership, letters of support, confirmation of the location, permission from the property owners, what's their artist selection process, etc. So you'll get much more information during that phase. So during the meeting on the day that we gather, we will have averaged all your preliminary scores. I'll send out the ranked list to you from highest to lowest scoring. And we do ask that you please submit those preliminary scores into our online system no later than 1 p.m. on Monday, July 10th. That way we have time to pull that information together for you. And the applications that receive a low score from the majority of you will not be discussed that day in an effort to save time. which is why having those comments in the system, particularly those that are getting low scores from you, will be helpful. If there's an application that gets removed from the list that you feel strongly about, we will allow you to have a passion vote to bring it back in for further discussion, and we will ask you to lead the discussion on that application. We will discuss each of the highest scoring applications and provide you all with a chance to rescore your applications that day for a final ranked list. And part of this process is that discussion. So it's common that your scores may change based on the conversation. And like I said, we'll invite 8 to 10 applicants to develop a full proposal due in September. And ultimately, we should estimate that we should be able to fund maybe 4 to 6 projects, depending on the category they applied in and the dollar amount they requested. All right, so that's it. Feel free to reach out to me over the next few weeks if you have any other questions that come up while you're looking at the applications. And thank you so much for your time in the review process. It's a really important work that you're doing. And I look forward to seeing you all in July. Thank you.